and welcome to my new video, and today I am going to play Mbt, a game of tank-to-tank combat on a tactical level in 1987 Germany, a game by GMT Games released at 2016. It is one of the most complicated war games in my entire collection, probably a second to the, well, most complicated war game ever, called Advanced Squad Leader. But I like it because it is a very interesting game that shows us situations that might happen in the last stage of the Cold War, and we have a lot of cool equipment here. And since it is tank-to-tank game where each counter is a single tank, it is quite a unique game, I think, when it comes to this era. Also, each tank has its card with a lot of information here. So again, it's cool, but also quite hard to manage and to understand and to learn. It took me quite a while to learn this game, and I'm not still sure if I understand everything well, but it's still a great game. It has two sets of rules. First one is the basic rules. These are, well, quite easy. It has about 28 pages of long. It is 28 pages long, but in fact the rules are, well, maybe about 20 pages, so it's quite easy. We can compare it again, while speaking of the Advanced Squad Leader, we can compare it with starter kits that are also 20 pages long and quite easy to master. But there is this big scary book called Advanced Game Rules, and that's where fun starts. It has 72 pages of rules, and there's a lot of rules here about a lot of stuff. Well, first infantry, ATGMs, artillery, AO units, and much more. But a good thing is that a lot of these rules are optional. You don't have to use them. You can use them step by step in upcoming scenarios, taste them, see if you like them or not, and if you don't like them you can just ignore them. So again, you are not forced to use everything which is in this big scary book. Also, you can play some scenarios with the basic game rules only. But basic game rules are for the tanks mostly. You won't be able to use infantry, artillery or AO units while using basic game rules, which is bad, I think, because you will probably love to check how infantry acts here. And this game has quite a unique rules when it comes to infantry. I think they are quite cool indeed. Also, ATGMs are very deadly, so you would love to have some of them, and also basic game rules are not containing any rules for this, so sooner or later you will be forced to start checking this big scary book, and you will learn how to use all this stuff. But as for today, I decided to start with basic rules only, so let's get rid of this for now and start with this. And the third book that comes with this game is titled Mbt Playbook, which is a scenario book with some additional informations that are also very interesting, because you get a lot of info about units you are about to command, about the entire situation and tactics of each side. So I think it's very interesting to read. Also, these informations here are very helpful when you like to create your own scenarios, which is also a good thing of this game, because it is very easy to create your own scenarios with the units you would like to try, with the situations you would like to try, and so on. A game has a modular concept, with these boards being able to be linked by their sides, so you can create any situation you like with any units you like. All you have to check is to keep some balance, but it is easy because each vehicle has a number of points which is worth of, so you are able to create a situation when each side has, well, quite a similar number of points with different units. There is a big variety of units in this game, with quite a modern, for these times of course, tanks, and some, well, quite outdated too. So you can see if the currently modern tanks like Abrams are fighting against quite an outdated tanks like T-55, which is probably the oldest tank in this game. So let's check our scenario setup. There is about 10 scenarios in this game, which is, well, not a very big number, but I think it is enough to learn everything which is in this game. And we are starting with scenario 1. Scenario 1, first clash. Czech western border, 27 September 1987. Situation. The Soviet 48 Motor Rifle Division leads the Soviet surge across the border against the US 7 Corps. Of the Central Front's 5 Division, the 48 Motorized Rifle Division and the 15th Guards Tank Division are advancing along the narrow corridor to the wedge of the US forces away and back from NATO's FRG 2nd Corps to the south. So, we know what's going on here. Next we can check our units. This might be quite tricky because here you have a scenario informations and here you have units on the next side. You have to remember about it. And what we have here. Americans have 15 M16 A3 TTS tanks, while Soviets have 13 T-72 AV version. So, when it comes to the tanks, Americans have advantage for when it comes to the number, but only when it comes to the number, because T-72 AV is quite a modern version of T-72, so it's better if you compare it with M60 TTS. So Americans have more tanks, but Soviet tanks are better. So, well, we have quite a balance. Next we have to check our battlefield. We gain victory points for capturing bridges on this river, or maybe other stream, that comes through the middle board. Also, we gain additional victory points for capturing forts on this bridge, on this stream as well. This stream is impassable, so you can't cross this water with your tanks. You have to use bridges or forts. So it's going to be a tough battle. Also, you gain some victory points for destroying enemy vehicles as well. But the bigger number of points come for capturing these bridges and forts. So this is the most important part of the battle for each side. And next, when it comes to the setup, each side sets their units 3 hexes away from their board edge. So here are Americans and here are Soviets. You may ask about why about the setup. So I'm already coming with some explanation. I said that I'm going to use the basic rules only. Yes, that's true. But I'm going to make one exception and use command rules. Why? Because command rules are quite essential and very important, and they change the game drastically. You are not forced to use them in the basic rules, of course, but I strongly recommend to check them first and use them, because they are changing the situation in a big way. Why? You will see in the gameplay, but it is important to mark that Americans have 2 command tanks, here and here, while Soviets have just a single command tank here, and this gives Americans much more options when it comes to the movement. You will soon see why. Next, about these tanks tables. They are looking, well, very complicated, I think, and some of you might take a look at them and say, meh, there's too much of information here. Yes, there is a lot of information here, but in the basic rules we are going to use only a small portion of them. We're going to check this table because there is information about the guns, and only a part that is about anti-tank guns. So we are going to ignore small weapons firepower, anti-air firepower, and some stuff like that. We don't need this part of AP damage as well. We can also ignore 90% of these defense informations because in the basic rules we have we have only this information: armor 8526. I will tell you later what it means. Same goes to M16. So when it comes to the basic rules, this is not very complicated. As you can only see, there is a little number of informations on the counters. In the most of the war games we have a lot of information on the counters, while here we have such a small info. So maybe I will focus a bit and tell you how it works. When it comes to the counter, we have an icon that shows what our tank looks from above. We have a name of the tank, a number that shows us what tank it is. When it comes to the number, it is quite an essential information when you use a lot of tanks of such same type, and you have to remember what tank is your command tank. So, for example, my command tank is here. It is 159 because it is the lowest number of these T-72 AV tanks. So I'm going to use this as my command tank. Also, in the bigger scenarios, when you have a lot of units, you can also use these Mbt formation summary tables that you can photocopy. And this is very good because you can, for example, mark what kind of your infantry fighting vehicles are carrying infantry. Or, for example, like here, you can see you have two Soviet infantry fighting vehicles and two squads, and you can see that they are armed in the different kind of weapons. So it is good to remember and note here what units are these. But as for now, it is not very important for us. And next we have movement information. This is the only gameplay information that is on the counter. It's movement allowance. First we have 7T. 7 is a number of movement points that units can spend in the terrain. Any kind of terrain which is not a road or not a path. Next we have a letter. This letter tells us what kind of movement that unit utilizes. So we have T, so we have this tank is tracked unit. It moves on tracks. Of course, a unit can be a half track unit, can be a leg unit, or, for example, wheeled unit. And next we have a number of the movement points that unit can spend while moving on the path, like here. So when it moves on the path, it can spend 9 movement points, but only if it moves only through this path, with this path. When it moves away of this path and spends more than 9, it has to stop. Sorry, more than 7, it has to stop because it is not moving down the path again. And finally we have 14, which is a number of the movement points that unit can spend when moving down the road. So it is easy to guess that moving down the road is best when it comes to the speed, but also it's often quite risky because it makes unit a better target, because most of the roads, as you can see, are in the clear terrain, and it's easy to guess that moving in the clear terrain makes our vehicles much easier to hit. So that's all when it comes to the basic informations. Of course, we will learn much more during gameplay, but as for now, that's all, and I think we can start our game. This scenario has 15 turns. Actually, I don't think we will have to play the entire 15 turns, because judging on my own experience, This scenario usually ends in 6, maybe 8 or 9 turns, not no more, because it is quite a deadly scenario with a big number of tanks on each side, and as soon they are in the range, they are firing like crazy on each other, and well, you can guess what's going on. So that's all when it comes to the basics. We can start our game. Each turn starts with a spotting phase, but in the first turn it's not a very important for us. Also, I would like to say that we have quite a well done sequence of play in the table sheet. It is also cool that they printed all the tables you will use in this game on the two-sided sheets, and they are in one. So you have everything in your hand, and you don't have to check a rule book, check a lot of pages, because everything is here. This is good. So we have a sequence of play, and another thing that I like in this game is that you have printed a number of paragraphs in the rule book that are describing these phases. Also, they are marked with different colors, so those that are black are basic rules, those that are red are advanced rules, and those that are blue are optional rules. So you can always check about everything about this phase in the rulebook with ease, because you know where everything is. The first phase is spotting phase, but we can skip this phase in the first turn, because all the tanks are far away from each other. And next we have command phase. Command phase is, well, one of the most important phases in our game, because we are giving commands to our tanks. First, we have to check how many commands we can spend. We have to count number of tanks we have. So, for example, Soviets have 13 tanks. And next we are checking the quality of our unit. We are taking our playbook, checking a scenario information. This is here. And here we have an information that our troops are seasoned, both American and Russian. So it will be easier to remember. And we are taking available commands table, take a seasoned verse, and check the number of the commands we can have. We have 13 Russian tanks, so we take 10. So it is 6, and we have 3 more, so we check 3. So we have 2. So 6 plus 2 is 8. So we can give our units 8 commands, which is quite a good number, because you can give one command to each stack. Or you can give more commands to one stack. For example, you can give one command to these 2 tanks and a different command to this one tank. This is good. Also, seasoned units have 1 hex command range. So, for example, if these tanks would be placed like this, they could share 1 command. This is also pretty good. And finally, command tanks. That's why I said it is important. Your tanks have to be in the range of command of your command tanks if you want to have all your commands being available. For example, Russians in this scenario have a command range of 8. So all the Russian tanks have to be in the 8 hexes range of their command tanks to have all their commands available. If any of these tanks is out of the range at the beginning of this phase, your number of the available commands is halved. So, for example, if these tanks would be somewhere here or there or far away, and they wouldn't be able to trace 8 hexes range from this tank, Russians would have not 8 commands, but only 4. So that's where Americans have clearly advantage, because they have 2 command tanks, and also American tanks have 10 hexes range. So you can tell the difference now. Next, we can check available commands. There is some number of them. First, it is fire. Unit with this order just fires. It does nothing else. It can't move, can't react in any other way. It just focuses on firing on the enemy. Next, we have move. Unit with this order just moves. It cannot fire in any way. It just focuses on reaching its target. Next, we have Overwatch. Unit with such an order does nothing, but stays on guard, and when it sees enemy unit moving, it may fire. So it is quite effective when your unit cannot see any enemy units because they are far away, but you can use this unit to use this order to mark a unit with this order, and it waits till enemy arrives. Finally, there is short halt. Short halt allows you to fire and then move by the limited number of the movement point. Firing with this order is less effective than firing with fire order, but sometimes it is good because when your tank is moving, it is harder to hit such a tank. So sometimes it is very good command. And finally, we have no command. If you can't give an order to such a unit, or if you don't have any idea what kind of order you would like to give to this unit, or you just don't care about it. So we have these orders, and we can when we are giving a command, we are taking a counter and placing on our unit or stack. Like I said before, we can give different commands to units in the same stack. For example, here I would like, if I would like, I can give move to these two and fire to these two. And that's how it works. Because they are seasons and they have 1 hex range, they can also share the same command. So for example, if we would like have a situation like this and they would have a move, this unit could share this command. But if unit shares the same command, it has to do everything that the other unit does. So if they move, they have to move, and they have to move in the same route as this, as they. So that's all when it comes to the commands, and now we can give commands to our tanks. So let's start with Soviets. I think all the tanks in this first turn will be just moving. I don't have to fire on anyone because the Americans are far away, and and Russians are also far away from Americans, so it's not very effective to fire on them. And also we have to remember what are our goals. We have to capture these bridges and forts on this stream here. So I will give a move order to all my Russian units. And it will be alright. Also, when you play with another human player, you are placing these order units like this. So enemy has no idea what orders you are giving to your units, till the moment when these orders are revealed, of course. But as for now, to make this everything easier for you to see, I'm going to place them like this, so you will be able to see everything how it works. And next we are moving to Americans, and this is the same situation. I'm going to give all my Americans move order, so they will be advancing. As you can see, Americans are set up in the quite a longer line, because they have 2 command tanks. One is here and one is there, so they can react more effectively than Russians, because Russians have only 1 command tank. So this is everything when it comes to the command phase. And next we have an initiative phase. We have to check which player will have an initiative, because it is important, maybe not for now, but also, but it gets very, very important later when we start firing on the enemy. So, how do we check initiative? We take 2d10, and as for me, I always say that lighter color shows tens, and the darker shows ones. So we make a roll for each side. First, for example, first for Americans, I rolled 64, and now for Russians, I rolled 23. So Americans have initiative. I take a counter with NATO symbol on and place it on the American side, so it means that Americans have an initiative. Next we have first air phase. This is not important for us because air rules are only for advanced game. And next we have combat phase. Also, this is not important for us now because all the units have movement command, none has fire command or shortcut command. And next we have movement phase. In the movement phase we can move our tanks. A player with an initiative moves second. This may sound a bit strange for some of you, but in the combat phase, player with initiative fires first, but he moves second. Why? Because he can check where enemy is moving and he can react on the enemy movement. So I think it makes sense to move a second, because this is no one fires in this turn. This is only in this phase, because this phase is only for movement. So let's start moving our tanks, and we are starting with Soviets. Maybe I will zoom a bit so you will be able to see everything easier. And I'm going to start with this stack. It has move command, so it can spend all its movement points, and it moves down the road. So it can spend even 14 movement points. So 1, 2, and this is quite an important thing to remember. I'm going to place my d6 to remember that I spent 2 movement points. When you are moving down the road, you can turn your units one spin freely. So I started here, so 1, 2, and normally if I would move through the clear terrain, I would have to pay for such a turn, so it would be 3. But when I move down the road, I can make such a turn for free. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now I made a one turn, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and this is where I'm going to stop. Because I spent 11 movement points, so I can't leave the road. And I would love to leave the road and move somewhere here, down this to these woods, but I can't because I spent enough of my movement points. So that's all when it comes to the movement of this unit. And now this stack. It moves down the clear terrain, so it has 7 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Next, my command tank, 1, 2, 3, it will be here. Next, this stack. Oh, and I forgot about one important thing that is very important. Every time your tank performs any action, it has to be marked with spot counter. There are 2 possible options, spot fire or spot move. Since our tanks moved, we have to mark them with spot move. It is important because it will tell us what tank later what tank did, and if enemy can see it during spotting phase. So this tank is also moved, So okay, next this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they can move higher because it would cost them yet another movement point, and they already spent enough of them. And finally, this group here, and we have to remember that we should move in the way that will allow our tanks to stay in the command range. So we have our command tank here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's all because I don't have enough movement points to enter these woods. Also, these tanks are getting spot move counters. So that's all when it comes to the Russian movement. And next we are moving to the American tanks. First we have one stack here, and they are on the road. And when moving on the road, this American M60s has 11 movement points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they are going to stay here because these are woods. So this will give them some cover. And of course they are getting spot move. Next, our command tank. 1, 2, 3. And as for Gully, I have to check how many movement points I have to move up the Gully. 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they are going to end their movement here. And next, this stack. Oh, I forgot about spot move. This is these spot counters are easy to forget about, but important later, so remember about them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think I won't move any further. Now they are moving here, just one hex, and gain this spot, this tank. 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is scrap, I think. This is scrap terrain, and as for scrap, you have to pay 2 movement points, so that would be all. Spot move. And finally, this group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's all when it comes to the first movement phase of our game. As you can see, each side is getting closer to the enemy. So we'll probably see some fire action in the next turn. And next we have second air phase. This is another thing we can skip for now. And next we have adjustment phase. In the adjustment phase we can do some actions, but all of them, well, most 90% of them are for optional rules or for advanced rules, so we don't care about them. Some of them are pretty cool. For example, we can turn the turret of our tank. For example, our tank ends movement in the not a way we like. For example, let's say that these tanks are here, and we would like to use them to fire on the enemy who is somewhere there. So in the adjustment phase, while using optional rules, we would be able to turn turrets of our tanks, but not in the basic rules. So in the basic rules, all we do is to remove comment counters, and this concludes our first turn of the game. Thank you for watching. I think this will be that will be everything when it comes to this part of this movie, and in the next part we will probably see some more firing action and some more gameplay, because I spent a lot of time here to describing the basics of the rules of this game. I think that in the next video we'll be able to show more gameplay. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Please remember that English is not my first language, so I am pretty sure that I made some grammar mistakes. I know about it. I'm doing my best to improve, so please be merciful when it comes to commenting my language skills.